Welcome to Q&C Presents Conversations with Creators. In each episode, I dive deep into the minds of filmmakers from every corner of the industry. Whether it's horror, drama, sci-fi, or comedy, we'll explore the creative journeys behind these films, the challenges faced, and the passions that drive these storytellers. So join me as I go behind the scenes and discover what it takes to bring visions to life. Hello and welcome back to Q&C Presents Conversations with Creators. I'm your host, Rick Clifton, and today I am absolutely thrilled to be joined by a multi-talented artist who has made her mark in Hollywood as an actress, as an author, and now as a director and a filmmaker. You're going to know her from such memorable roles like Crash and Summer of Sam, or her work on TV shows like Blue Bloods and The Affair, or my favorite smash hit, The Boys. But today, I'm here to talk about her latest venture into filmmaking with her powerful new indie film, Fresh Kills. So without further ado, I'm going to stop talking and say welcome to the show, Jennifer Esposito.
Thank you so much, Rick. I really appreciate having me, really.
Well, this film I absolutely love. I've gushed about it with you in our conversations before we started, but I really want to sort of talk about not only the film itself and what sparked the idea and the creation behind it, because I really want to know that. But I know that it's an indie film, so getting it out into the world is, as an indie filmmaker myself, I know the struggle that's involved with that. So I really want to sort of dive in today. If you're good to do that with me for a bit.
Absolutely. There's much to say.
Great. Well, first of all, let's start with talking a little bit about what the film is about and the inspiration behind it.
So the film takes place in a mafia family, and we're seeing this family through the eyes of the two young women, Rose and Connie, played by Emily Bader and Odessa Azayan, who are fantastic. And it's a point of view of this world that we just have never seen before. And if you look back at all these amazing, classic mafia movies, we've really never seen the point of view of the women and this world through the eyes of the women, especially the young women. So, um, it's the discovery of who the family is, their place in the family, and it asks a lot of questions about, is family sometimes, the best thing for us? Is what's more important, loyalty to the family or loyalty to oneself? It's about finding a voice in a world that tells you not to have one. There's a lot of themes played. So on the surface, it's very much a mafia film, but a little bit deeper than that. There's something more there that I think is why it's hitting audiences the way it is. Because I think everybody feels at some point in their life that they were either born into a slot or pushed into a slot that they thought they were more than, and the struggle is real to get out of that spot. So for me, I grew up around seeing people in the mafia, the young women my age, and I was young. I moved from Brooklyn to Staten Island when I was probably 10. And growing up around these young women and the violence I saw and the rage, it really stayed with me. And I would always ask myself like why, and I would just chalk it up to, well, I guess I would be really mad if my family was in the mafia. And it turned out when I left around 17, 18 to pursue acting and put myself through acting school and work my way up, and just some of the injustices I was seeing for myself and for other friends, and being from New York or being told I was too this or too not enough of that or too ethnic or whatever the hell on that particular day I was being told. And then just being female and realizing that there was a ceiling to my career, there was a ceiling to my life, there was a ceiling to my career, to all of it. And that rage that I saw in the young women, I really understood on a deeper level, and it had nothing to do with their family and who their family was. It was rather being born into something they didn't choose. And so it's really comes down to choice.
That's interesting because I remember watching the film and I was like, well, it's centered in New York, and I knew that you had sort of written this story based on your own experiences, but I immediately thought, also as a male, I was like, I grew up in the South, and I'm like, God, there's so many, like, I can empathize with so many of these feelings, though. It was just I connected with it right away.
Yeah.
So I think there is, like you said, there's something universal in that feeling. Um, as a director and as an actress, because you did both in this film, I would love to know how you balanced wearing multiple hats during the production of this movie.
Um, I when you don't have a choice, you just do it. There was no choice. But I have to tell you, and I said this on a podcast, I think it was yesterday. Um, to me, that was the easiest part of all of this. The hardest part, the most heart wrenching part, the most um, uh, injustice in this experience has been the business portion. That having to be different hats, talk about different hats, having to be my own marketing person, having to be, an influencer now on all this social media, having to be, the PR. It's dealing with the absolute asinine things I have been hit with of like, well, this really isn't mafia because Robert De Niro is in it. And it's just like, I'm not really even sure how to answer that stupidity. Like there's, there's no there's no real answer to that question. So um the beauty, the beauty of coming from like middle class, like my mother dropped me off at a movie theater when I was like 13 years old and was like, go get a job. So I know work. I've worked my entire life, and so work doesn't scare me. And I started in theater, and I started, waiting tables, putting myself through. I used to wait tables from 12. My shift was 11:30 p.m. to 4 in the morning, and then I would put myself through acting school during the day, and then getting into independent films and like doing these films for no money and getting changed in the back of a truck. This is when independent films were independent films, so that work doesn't scare me at all. It's like bring it on. And that the feeling that you got from being on an indie film, you knew everybody was there for the right reason. You knew that it was just like, we're going to make this thing. And that was exciting to me. That was really exciting to me. So to be able to do this, and I tell you, some of the best things in the film came from curveballs. Because on an indie film, I had 21 days. I had zero to no money. We were in COVID, in winter. I had one producer that we found out later was like a complete thief, like literally driving the train like into the wall. And there I was, just creating. And that was the most beautiful time to me. And I will say, directing myself, this character has been with me for so long. It definitely was odd when you're in it, and like I said, there was no like, wait, let me go watch playback. There's no there's nothing, none of that. So it was like I'd be in the scene and I'd have the monitor checking everything, and then I'd like put it behind my back, especially if we were sitting at the table, and I'd put it behind my back, and I would say action, and then it'd be like, okay, okay, cut, and I'd look at the just to make sure I got everything. So, but to me, that's the beauty of creating. But so that wasn't the hard part. It's all the rest of the stuff that I had to do.
Well, let's talk about that. I love the spirit of filmmaking. Exactly what you described. That's always the favorite part for me too. It's always the stuff that comes after, right? That we freaking hate with a passion. But let's talk about that a little bit. I do want to come back. I want to talk about this amazing cast of yours. I think that I mean, wow, from top to bottom, great cast.
Thank you.
Um, But let's talk about the business side of it, the distribution, because I did see a comment that you had posted about, well, it's not a mafia movie if it doesn't have Robert De Niro. I saw that and I got angry because I'm like, did you watch the movie? I mean, it's so how do you what advice would you have for an up and coming or another filmmaker that is experiencing the same thing? How did you navigate that? And what would you suggest for anyone else experiencing this sort of the same issues and roadblocks?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm still navigating it, to be honest. I did, I keep, I said to my producers, one producer that came on like a week before the movie ended, and if it wasn't for her, we would have been done. She's been my ride or die. Um, I just said to her yesterday, I said, I feel like the finish line keeps moving every time we think, especially like the Oscars, the Olympics, and I was watching all these runners, and they're like, oh, just get over the finish line, and I was like, I'm so when do I get to do that experience? Because every time I think like I'm past the gate where the keepers are, there's a fucking another one. There's another gate. I'm like, what the holy fuck? It's just, I call it the circle of hell at this point. Seriously, it has been just absolutely insane. So look, my advice, I'd like to tell every filmmaker out there and every creative that cares, we should all pull together. I'm really not joking, and figure out a way to do this among ourselves, and fund each other, support each other, put the money back into someone else's piece, and like, because the industry as we know it is literally killing the art form. It is destroying something that was the only thing I had as a kid that I loved. I used to watch movies like this was my thing, and it's just so sad. So I don't know if I have any advice on how to get through that insanity, but I will say it's a good thing and a bad thing with me. I don't quit. Like there's no quitting. Like when someone told me this the other day about, and went on. It was like, it's not a really edgy indie lesbian movie, and it's not a and I was just like, I don't know what I'm hearing right now. And listen, everybody's got their opinion. I understand, but if we would have listened, or if I would have listened to the amount of no's that I have received along the way, I I wouldn't have been anywhere. Like at this point, when they come to me and they're like, it's such a bad time in the industry, and but I said, do you see this team of who you're speaking to? Do you see? I made this movie on nothing. There was no support. We opened in AMC theaters and 35 theaters. That happened because we went to AMC. Like every single thing that people told me I couldn't do, I went, okay, that's your opinion. That's not my opinion. So you have to be so relentless what
And
you want to do.
that reminds me, I wrote this down. It was a quote from the movie, and I'm just going to throw it back at you. I was going to save it for the end, but you have set me up perfectly for this. There's a line that says, "There's a fire in you that just never goes out." And for me, that is 100% the spirit and the vibe that I pick up from you. So I'm just going to throw
That
that line right back at you
you
because
know
that's what I'm
it.
hearing.
That is, and I'll tell you, and I really do think about it as I get older. I literally said to my husband the other day, as it was like after this conversation about the De Niro, I literally sat there and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. And we've all said this 900 times.
Yeah.
I was really like, no, this is like, I always say it's an abusive relationship with this business. And I was like, no, I really can't. I was like, I think I'm going to breed dogs. I think I love dogs. They're simple. I love puppies. I love, like, and I was like, but I do have this thing that is like, especially because of the injustice portion, like that like if you just saw the reviews coming out now for Kate Blanchett's new big, tremendous, I think they spent $102 million. And I mean, Kate can do no wrong, but it's literally getting tanked. So you greenlight something for $102 million for two of those million. You could have my movie that we did, and a great story and 50,000 other ones. You're choosing to do this, and it's mind blowing to me. It really is mind blowing to me. And so you
it,
just have
it
to.
operates in a bubble, and it's like they can't get out of their own heads sometimes. It's very frustrating, and trust me, I think we've all experienced it,
Yeah.
and I've definitely been there. I've had those moments where I'm like, I'm never fucking doing this again. It's the
Yeah.
last goddamn time. And then the second it wraps, you're like, let's do it again.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just, I've been
It's
there
like
so many times.
abusive, but here's the thing I will say that's been keeping me going, and I really do mean this. People like yourself and others have reaching out to me. The people, like I got to a point where, you turn on Netflix or whatever and you see the top 10 movies in the world and you're dumbfounded. You're like, wait, what? And so you think it must be me. I must be too picky, or I'm not, I just don't, I'm not mainstream. I must. And then my movie comes out, and everyone, young, old, black, white, gay, straight, are writing me like this is the best movie I've seen, and like loving it and feeling it and seeing themselves in it, and saying I haven't seen a good movie in years. So the need and the desire for it is there. I don't understand. I just don't understand.
I think the business has got. I'm again just. I think the business has gotten to the point where we're all, all of these executives are wrapped up in tent poles and the money that they bring in, and we've forgotten what the spirit of cinema really is all about.
100.
And I think about film school, and like the films that you study in film school are like, I never saw this in a local theater, and it's amazing. Um, so yeah, I can relate and totally agree with that
Yeah.
sentiment. So, in the world of indie filmmaking, as we've talked about, and as you know, collaboration is 100% key. And I actually don't want to forget about this. I want to talk about what you said about coming together. So don't let me forget. But I would like to know how you went about assembling the crew and how it all came together and creating this environment on set, because it's very clear to me that everyone showed up to do the good work.
It's never easy. Like I said, I come from a place of doing independence where really everybody was there, like, let's do this. I do feel like there's a little bit of a difference now with the younger generation being like, oh no, I'm not working at, like, literally I think we were a second over or something, and one of the crew was like, no, I'm on lunch. Like, I'm on lunch. And
Mm.
that was really disheartening, I have to say. But listen, everybody has I respect everybody and their opinion. But I can't say that any of this was easy. It wasn't like, oh yeah, we're all here together. It wasn't. The heads of the departments, like my production designer had 2.5 weeks, and I mean, she's amazing.
Wow.
Amazing. She's 2.5 weeks. She's incredible. And then she had COVID half through it. So she was giving her what to do to her team through the, like, FaceTime, because she's home. Like, insane. And then the costume designer, again, 2.5 weeks. I had started buying clothes because I was like, I'll dress the people too. I'll do it all. So they had 2.5 weeks, and again, we're in COVID, we're in New York, so everyone definitely was doing their best, but it wasn't perfect. It definitely wasn't perfect. What I found really, really beautiful is the way the actors felt, because of course, coming from my background as an actor, Odessa said something to me that really, really I'll never forget. And she said to me on her last day, she said, "This is the safest and the most respected I've ever felt on a set." And that to me it's the world to me, because you don't really feel that way all the time on a set, and I think that's why I got the performances I got, because I they weren't just tools. We're treated a lot like a tool. Like, say my lines, shut up, look cute, especially if you're female, shut up, look cute. We don't want to hear. I never forget, I was on a set and I had a writer say to me, "So, Jennifer, what did you think about the third act?" And I was like, "Well, I thought what, but," and the way he looked at me was like that wasn't the right fucking answer. Especially from you. Like, you're not supposed to know anything. Look cute, put your dress on, and go say your lines. And that's a lot of times how you feel as an actor. It depends. It's that had been my experience in some of the things. So to really respect the actors and believe that they had something to offer and allow them the space. And the other thing is, when I was with my editor, who was also fantastic, um, is to really allow the actors to breathe and think. And I think that's one of the reasons, again, why people tell me, like, "Oh my God, I felt like I was within Rose's head and I was with Rose." Yes, because I didn't keep cutting, cut away, cut away, cut away, and all these things and shots. And it was like, no, let's let that land. Let's see her thinking of, like, what do I do now? Like, let's see that humanness. And I think we're so quick to get in there and maneuver and manufacture something. And I just didn't want to do that. I just didn't want to do that.
It shows, and it's amazing. And speaking of Rose, and it's a great segue back to the cast. I do want to talk a little bit about the cast, but Rose, Emily Bader, wow, 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 what an amazing, just emotive, and not super talky and chatty, like lots of stuff going on inside. And it was such an amazing performance, all the way through from beginning to end. And I loved where she ended up. And yeah, so talk about the casting a little bit, and this amazing cast that you brought in.
Thank you. Emily wasn't in a pile of yeses. I'll tell you that. It was, I searched through all the no's, and she wasn't doing much work. And you see what I saw. She's but then when we got her in, me and casting was just like, "Oh yeah." But I knew, I was like, this is a really talented young woman. Also because one of the scenes I picked for the audition, and being that you saw the film, you'll understand. There's a scene, for anyone else, there's a scene in the movie where she's not speaking, and she's at a wedding, and she's just watching her father at a table, and then she looks at this, and then she looks at that. That was one of the audition scenes. And the amount of actresses that didn't do it because they,
Wow.
like, "I'll just do these two," because there was three. And she not only did it, but killed it. Like, killed it, because that was the essence of Rose. Like, if you don't understand how to do this, you can't play this role. So I needed to see that this person could give the whole story without saying a word. And she did it. So that is, I kept going back to her. And she got lucky because her boyfriend is a DP. So, like, the camera started going, like, so but she had the goods. Like, she was thinking, you saw what she was thinking. So that was Emily. And then Odessa, a friend of mine had read my script, and she was like, I was worried about Odessa character, the Connie character, because that kind of rage is not something you can act. It really isn't. Like, you gotta understand this kind of energy. And the girls I grew up with, they're scared anybody. They were rough. So I really needed someone raw, really raw. And a friend of mine said, "You need to watch this show." And I watched the show, some show that Odessa was on, and I meant to watch an episode, and I watched the whole season, and I was just like, that's her, that's her. She just blew me away. And then Dominic was always one of the first choices in my brain. I love Dominic. I think he's fantastic. We did one of our earliest movies together, um, and I just thought he was, what he did for me in that role was twofold, because I wanted somebody that this mob world knows, but then not seeing him how you think you're going to see him.
Right.
He's dad. He's dad in this. And I kept saying to Dom, he's like, I'm not going to play this Ginzo, I was like, no, 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 no. That's not what I'm interested. You are dad, period. That's it. That's who you are. So, and then Annabella again was someone that I had always thought about for this. Yeah, you don't get better cast than two heavyweights that they also solidify us as a culture. The amount of times I have to see, non-Italians playing Italians, which, listen, every actor has a right to play everything, but to really solidify being New York Italian is a very, very precise thing. So they really did that for me. They really, they found the foundation was with them.
That's fantastic. The cast just blew me away. So all of them, even their secondary list of characters, are great. And like I said, I found something in each character that I could relate to back to something in my own past, and so there was really a lot there. Not to mention the music, and music actually wasn't on my original list of questions here, but the music in this, because it's centered in the 80s and the 90s, and if you grew up in that time, there's a lot of there's a lot of original songs that I think you have in there, but there's a cover, I think, of Shout, and I need that cover, so I need to go
Oh,
find
good,
it. So
good.
I think it's Malia J that did it, right?
The
So
music, the music was so important to me. I picked every song, and like it also, because in where I grew up, it was like started out as this fun disco housey kind of, and then when it changed to rap, I saw more violence, and it was just the music was part of the fabric of the film, and it was very important to me.
totally worked.
Yeah.
So are there any behind the scenes stories or memorable moments from making the movie that you want to share or talk about?
I mean, so many. I will tell you one. We didn't get to film the real ending of the film, what it was supposed to be, because the Verrazano Bridge got shut down for a storm. I mean, I've lived in New York my whole life, and it never has been shut down until they supposed to be on the Verrazano Bridge. So, not to give too much away, but there was one more scene that was supposed to take place with Rose on the bridge.
I bet I know what that is. So
Yeah,
and I know where it is in the movie. So
yeah. So that didn't happen, but yeah, that was a fun day. That was like, oh, okay, we don't have an end to the movie. That sounds great. That sounds right. That sounds right. Yep.
what was your favorite scene to film overall? And I know that's like asking a mother to pick her favorite child.
Yeah. I tell you, the scene where the girls confront one another in the bathroom. My God, I have to say, when I get excited, like, it's the acting to me. When oh my God, I feel it now. It was the end of the night. Odessa had arrived 2 days prior, so she was just starting, and Emily had been with me for a week, and so we had done a lot of things, me and Emily, already, but she'd been very, like, quiet and repressed, because these were the scenes, and this was the first time she was going to get to. And I was waiting to see it, because I had never seen her do this. And so, but Odessa was also came in, very confident. She's a confident actor, and um, I don't think anybody was prepared for what Emily pulled out. I don't think anybody. And I'm at the monitor going, like freaking out. And I remember seeing Odessa after the first take, and Emily like unleashes, and I saw Odessa like, wow, whoa, like I better show up. Like
Yeah,
I
exactly.
show up. And I was like, it's yours to take. Go ahead. Go tell her, like show her what you need to, what you need to. And she said, can I put my own, because I knew stuff that she was working with, and I said, yep, put your own feel in there. And so the one line that was hers that I kept, that I loved, she said,
It,
I don't like you.
yes.
Like, yeah, we're
Yep.
keeping we're keeping that. Yeah. No, so that was honestly, and I think they did maybe 3 takes, 3, 4 takes at best, because Emily was like getting beaten.
That's
But it was
great.
explosive. It was explosive. It was magic.
And I think this is the same scene. I wrote 2 things down from the movie. So this is the other thing I wrote down. I think this is the same scene. It's where Connie tells Rose that she knew that she used to climb into bed and she was awake. Is that the same
No,
scene?
when they get to a fight in the bathroom, but that scene is one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
It is so like, oh my God. It just, I stopped the movie and watched it again. I was like, oh my God. I mean, it was so powerful and I just loved it so much.
I love that scene as well. I remember writing that scene and being like, oh my God, like this is exactly, like this is the relationship. And again, that was another one that, I sent to actresses to read. And it's just always fascinating to me how people see things, who's screaming, and it's like, mm, you really had to understand more of who Connie was. So it's just been an incredible process to see all of this come to fruition the way it did.
That's really great.
Yeah.
So what are the next steps for this film? What are your hopes for the future of this film? I know it's out on streaming platforms now, and I'll give you a chance to set that up in a second.
Yeah.
But
Streaming on like Pay and Rent on Amazon and Apple. We're hoping to get a streaming deal. Apple and Fandango, Voodoo, stuff like that. But the hope, is, like I said, the goal, just the finish line keeps moving. Um, I'm just gonna keep going. To be honest, I think the film deserves to be recognized. I'm gonna push it towards like Independent Spirits and Gotham and all that stuff. I think these young women need to be recognized. Um, but I know that's gonna take a lot. It's gonna take a lot. So I don't know. We're thinking of maybe bringing the people with us, and like doing maybe a crowd GoFundMe or something like that, because it's all money and marketing that we
right,
don't have. And we don't have a big giant behind us. It's just not the film. And but I think it could really be empowering to other filmmakers, for all indie films, of saying like, you know what, let's go, let's charge the gate, all of us, let's go, let's support this one, because we can really make a dent here, and saying like, look at this film, 91 on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and a 94 from the people, which never happens. It's never an agreement, as you know. And we have that now. We have that, and we have an outpouring of like, what's going on. I think people are starting to see it, but I need to now grow that. So if we all push this forward, maybe we can have a better conversation. Like, this film was almost completely hidden, and so I'm
and with
not.
ratings like that, it's unbelievable. And it's I wanted to come back to something you'd said earlier in the conversation about, I don't know the best way to describe it. It's like building a co-op, I guess, right? Or a group of people that come together and support indie film. I think there's something in that. And I think that I hope that, I mean, it's got my brain turning. So maybe one of these days I'll hit you up and be like, hey, I have this idea.
Great,
So,
great.
but I'll throw this out to the audience. And it's like, if you have ideas, throw them out. Let's see what we can do to make something like that happen. Because I think that the world of indie filmmaking does need a little more of a spotlight than it gets, especially in the shadow of all of these big tentpole movies that everybody's into these days. So don't get me wrong, I love a good superhero movie. I'm a superhero boy from day one, but
There's room for
I love
all.
film too. So
Yeah, and there is room for all of it,
right,
but there's no air allowed to the indie films anymore because they're all the good placement is bought. It's like, you can't even get see an actual, like, oh, how many people are looking at this, and how, because we can't go up against the marketing of a powerhouse. You just can't do it.
right.
So
Got to
yeah,
be it's got to be grassroots and ground level efforts. So for
and that
sure.
is, yeah.
So the movie is called Fresh Kills. As Jennifer mentioned, it's available on streaming platforms now like Amazon, Apple, YouTube, Fandango Home. I'm sure there are others. I will get the whole list. I'll put them in the show notes. I'll put them on screen as well. And Jennifer, how can our audience find you on social so they can follow this amazing story?
I'm on Jennifer's Way JE. That was an old bakery name of mine. So Jennifer's Way JE on X or Twitter, whatever the hell we're calling it these days.
I'm still
And
calling it Twitter.
exactly. J Esposito on Instagram, and I am Jen Espo on TikTok. And also the website for the movie is freshkillsmovie.com. And I just ask everyone who's seen the movie, please go and leave reviews. It all matters. It all helps. Post about it, scream it from the mountaintops, because like I said, I think people seeing what I'm doing has inspired others, especially in the indie world, to really say, we can do this. That's why I think all of us banding together is more mighty than one. So just support where you can. I really appreciate it.
I absolutely love that and echo that sentiment 1000%. So Jennifer, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you coming and talking to me over here. And for the rest of you, we'll see you guys next time on Quills and Chills Q&C special series.
Thank you.